Hello, my soul-seeking friends. It's Shanna. Thank you so much for listening to Sense of Soul podcast. Enlightening conversations with like-minded souls from around the world, sharing their journey of finding their light within, turning pain into purpose, and awakening to their true sense of soul. If you like what you hear, show me some love and rate, like, and subscribe. And consider becoming a Sense of Soul Patreon member, where you will get ad-free episodes, monthly circles, and much more. Now go grab your coffee, open your mind, heart, and soul. It's time to awaken.
Today on Sense of Soul, I have with me Karl Gruber, host of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment, one of the founding Ethereal Network podcast. Karl is a certified law of attraction life coach, an author, writer, and in his spare time, he runs marathons. His work as a certified law of attraction coach has blossomed out of his deep belief that you have an extraordinary, very real champion deep within you that is waiting to be unleashed. So please welcome Karl Gruber. Thank you, Karl, so much for coming on Sense of Soul.
Well, I just think it's cool that you invited me to be here with you.
Heck yeah. I'm so excited to talk to you. I've been wanting to for a long time.
Yeah, so, I have to say it's pretty darn exciting that we're part of this ETV stuff, huh?
We could say that we are part of the founding Ethereal Network.
We are.
So, yeah, it is an honor.
Yeah, Will and Karen have done so much footwork, and they continue to do it, and I'm just amazed, just grateful to be part of it. So, yeah.
I said, this is what you kind of wanted to do at the beginning when you first brought us all together. And I said, but you'd never told me that you were a wizard. I was like, did you manifest this?
Yeah, if I remember in one of his promos, he went to a witch's coven.
I know, that is true. So how did you come into the law of attraction and into this journey that you're on?
Well, let's see, you got a couple hours? So, I've been around a little bit longer than you, but, back in the 90s, I guess, I was a wild and crazy disc jockey at a radio station. That was my career for 20 plus years, and I was super healthy. And I still am, and I've been a marathon runner for years, and so I was living this really wild and crazy, enjoyable, healthy life, running every day, living in a beautiful home way out in southeast Ohio, out in the country, and I started to wondered there's got to be something more to this world, and so I started to read things like the foundational book Power of Positive Thinking by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. He really basically started the positive thinking movement way back in the early 20th century. And then I moved on to people like Dr. Wayne Dyer, Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, on and on and on and on. And I kind of developed my own, what I call positive possibility power thinking, because I never heard of the law of attraction at that time. It really wasn't a thing, Napoleon Hill, of course, that's one of the keystones too, is his Think and Grow Rich book. And he really did teach about the law of attraction, but that term just wasn't used. Right. And so I went through all those years and ended up really deciding I want to make a difference in the world. So 95, I met a little boy with leukemia, and I was in a marathon training group called Team in Training, and we would run marathons to raise money for leukemia research and cure. And this little boy, Glenn Miller Jr. of Logan, Ohio, he passed away. And I'm trying to figure out what I could do to make a difference in the world. Well, I never even knew this was a thing, and I'm out running one morning at sunrise, and it's beautiful summer morning, and I said, I know I will run 52 marathons in 52 weeks to raise money for leukemia and awareness. So ignorance was bliss, because I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And so, but I, kind of like our friend Will we were talking about, when I get an idea, I'm going to do it. And so it took me about a year to prep it, and the internet was just blossoming. So it was phone calls and faxes and letters and more phone calls, and lining up a marathon a week for 52 straight weeks around North America, Canada, US, Hawaii. And so basically, I took my positive possibility power thinking and applied it to my good health and ability to run 26.2 miles, and did it once a week for 52 straight weeks. I was the ninth man in the world to accomplish it from May 5th, 1996 through April 27th, 1997. And I accomplished that. And so I raised a lot of money and awareness for leukemia. And then, the years went by, and I found out back in the mid 2000s that I could become a certified law of attraction life coach. And I go, huh? What? This is very cool. And a lady named Christy Whitman, she's amazing. And she had a organization called, and she still does, the Quantum Success Coaching Academy. And it was a year-long program learning about the law of attraction and becoming a law of attraction life coach. And so this is back, I got certified in 2012. It was a year-long program, the best thing I ever did. And everything I learned about the LOA and learning how it's never turned off. It's on 24/7. And we apply it whether we even realize it or not. And basically, I haven't looked back. I coach people on that, and I apply that to my own podcast too.
So while you were running a marathon from 1996 to 1997, I was having my first child.
Oh, wow.
I was running a marathon. Yep. He's almost 27.
Wait, you're like 20 years old.
No, in fact, there's no music like the 80s, but what kind of disc jockey were you for what kind of music genre?
Here's the funny thing. I grew up in the hippie era with Jimi Hendrix and all the psychedelic music. I worked 16 years at a country music radio station. And
wow.
I actually ended up loving it because as a youngster, I was a musician. I played bass, string bass, and bass. So I had an piano, and I got an appreciation for music. And so after being in as a country music DJ, I really started to pay attention to the musicians, and some of the finest musicians, instrumentalists, are in Nashville and in the country music world. And so I really got into it. And I appreciate all genres of music. But it was fun. I had a wild and crazy group to work with, and got to meet all the famous country stars of the day and interview them myself, which gave me experience interviewing people for my podcast. And so country music of all things. And later on, I my last 3 years in radio, I worked at a national public radio station here in Ohio, doing public radio.
But, music and vibration is where it's at, right? I mean, we don't realize that until we realize that we're energy. And then we realize how a song can play. And not only do you feel it in your body, it brings you back in almost like a time capsule, right? You're going back into time or back into the future, however you look at it. I actually went to see Back to the Future with my partner. We went and saw that at the movie theater, the first one.
It's interesting. My latest guest on my own show, she's a sound healer, and she uses crystal bowls and everything. And as we know, since everything is actually energy, we learn that when we study the law of attraction or quantum physics, even that every note has a particular frequency. And if we are energy, and what we hear frequency wise through music can resonate or conflict with us, cause, a little dissonance in our body. And that's why we're attracted to certain music and sounds too. But yes, the frequency of certain sounds can actually help heal and calm you, de-stress you, that type of thing.
Yeah. I have a son who is on the spectrum. He's 20, and he listens to the best music ever. I mean, I'm amazed sometimes. I'm like, is he real? I mean, he loves like Tesla and like REO Speedwagon, but then he'll be listening to something like Sonny Boy Williamson, and listening to the harmonica. And I'm just like, dude, who are you? He
Yeah.
loves it. Yeah. It's that resonance, right? And so I didn't realize that, the law of attraction was so much based around that, almost like the Hermetic philosophies and of the law of vibration, right? Kind of all those laws kind of go together, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, it's still as popular and as widespread the law of attraction is in the world, which of course really blew up when Rhonda Byrne put out the movie The Secret in 2006, which just opened up the world to. But the vast majority of the world still doesn't understand that it even exists. If you went down to your local street corner and asked the next 10 people that came by, hey, tell me everything you know about the law of attraction. Well, probably 9 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10 of them look at you like you're a kook and run the other way. And because they don't know, they'll just glaze over. Even when I just talk to casual acquaintances and start to bring up spirituality or something, they just kind of glaze over and say, yeah, well, yeah, that's interesting. But didn't you see the game last night? It was really great, because they just want to talk about stuff, which I do too. But, I like it all.
Yeah, I'm not talking to my neighbors about this, not very often. That's for sure. But so the thing that I find is so amazing is that, like you've said, the law of attraction is happening, whether we know it or not. It's happening all the time. And I think that once you do explain it to somebody, they can resonate with many moments in their lives where, they've done this throughout their day.
Oh, absolutely. And, if you're a listener or viewer right now who are going, and this is the first time you've ever heard of law of attraction, take a little bit of time to investigate it and you'll find out pretty quickly. And I think the most eye-opening thing for newcomers to the LOA is that it works 24/7, just like gravity. However, they don't realize that it works for both the good and the bad. So if you're resonating, if your thinking is constantly like, man, everybody I know is getting the flu. I'm probably going to get the flu. Gosh, everybody's getting sick. I hope I don't get sick. All the universe hears, all the law of attraction hears is flu, flu, flu. Well, let's just send it right to her. And on the same ilk there, if you understand that it works for positive, loving, happy, good things, well, then switch your thought system over to what.
And collectively, collectively, we saw that with COVID, what you just said.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, boy, we got to have 5 shows on that or 10 shows, that alone. But
it's so true.
I think people have to understand that they have the choice. There's a classic law of attraction process that I use with my clients when I talk to them, and it's called pivoting. So if you find yourself, if you catch yourself in the moment thinking thoughts about what you really don't want to happen, man, boy, it looks like rain out there, but I hope it really doesn't rain, but, and wait a second, that's not what I want. I want a sunny, beautiful day. Switch your thoughts 180 degrees and say, you know what? I bet, those clouds are going to clear up. I really, really would like a sunny, beautiful day, and keep your thoughts dwelling there. And you may not instantaneously see something, but if you continually start dwelling in a more happy, loving, positive place of what you really do want, it really does work. I think one of the best examples where you can pivot, and we've all been there, you go to the gas station to get gas and you have to go inside to pay. It might be, one of the big convenience stores, and there's one clerk. She's on the phone. There's 5 people ahead of you, and you're in a rush. You got, I get going, blah, blah, and your steam's coming out of your collar. You're mad, and then you just stop and say, you know what? This is not what I really want. She's the only one working. I'm sure she's trying the best that she can, and just calm down, relax, and place, I'll get through this. It's not that important if I'm a couple minutes late. And then more than likely, you're going to see the line all of a sudden clear up and move real fast, and you're next and you're on your way.
So true. To just take that pause. The first book that really was my awakening book was The Power of Now, by Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah.
And, that pause has been a huge pivot in my life, the hugest pivot. But you're so right. And when I think about how you said it can happen good or bad. So an example, COVID was a huge manifestation of everyone being sick. And then why can't we do that right now for good?
We absolutely can. And I think that's an important point you bring up, Shauna, is that you can pivot individually. You can move your thoughts individually to what you want, but we can do it collectively. And we see that in case of COVID or whatever it is, in wars or who knows, riots, strikes, who knows, whatever it can be. If we're all watching TV, except me, because my TV's not even hooked up. But you see the news, and all you hear is see all that negative, disempowering, low vibrating stuff, and we're so influenced that in the entire collective of mankind's their consciousness is in a low vibrating place, and that just causes more of it to manifest. If we as a humankind can come together and move in the opposite direction, we can affect things. I think one of my favorite researchers, journalists, writers is Lynn McTaggart, and she has something called the power of 8, where 8 or more people come together virtually or live and focus on a person, place, or thing to heal it. And actually, I'm the facilitator of a big Power of 8 group on Facebook with 1,600 people around the world. Every part of the world is there, and we do healings. But I think the classic case, and I don't know if Lynn did this, but she reported it. There was, I think it was Nashville, Tennessee. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was that. They gathered people together around the world virtually and focused on stopping crime in this particular area. And they contacted local police offices and everything, and found during the time that they meditated and focused on this particular city being less and less and less crime and less dangerous to be in, crime actually went down. Actually, that's statistical proof of it. And then once they stopped doing that, the crime went back up. And Lynn McTaggart has done this with places. And even my group, we did a healing for South Africa, the Transkei Ocean right off the southern coast of South Africa. Shell oil was coming into these pristine waters and was going to do sound blasting, which would have completely upset the environment and the animals in the water. They were sound blasting this fine oil. And it was a huge blow. And if they would have actually drilled there, would have destroyed this pristine water. Well, we did a Power of 8 healing group simultaneously with another Power of 8 group in South Africa. 2 weeks after we did that, the Supreme Court in South Africa ordered Shell oil out permanently, and we healed it.
Wow. Like the power of prayer, which
they have law of attraction too. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It works. Amazing. It works.
It does. Yeah. I had on a guest not long ago who is trying to put together a global pause. And she put it out. It's not going to be till 2025 because she's gathering people and awareness. So she wants it to be 24 hours, all time zones.
Ooh.
And, I feel like it's the younger generations who are really able to pull together kind of in a way that like the baby boomers did with protests, but they can reach far beyond, some Capitol Hill. So I think it's very powerful, even though technology is kind of a double-edged sword.
I think that's a real good point about the younger generation. I've had a number of guests on my podcast and talked to experts one-on-one that say the younger generation, now that mankind is on the verge of ascension from out of the 3D and moving to a higher vibrating, a more loving, happy place, is I believe most of the youngsters born are, what do they call them, rainbow babies? Or
spirit babies. Yeah, star seeds. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have a more of awareness of this thing than I think we're going to see some amazing, wonderful, beautiful things with the younger generation. All we have to do is get past the chaos and what we
Yeah.
see in the media.
I just always imagine like when my kids used to like play with blocks and stuff, and they had this big, world that they would make, and then dog would come through and destroy it all or something, and just rebuilding it again. But there's like this chaos. And I think that's what we're in. But I have to tell you, I have kids from two generations, and my youngest is whoa. I mean, they're just coming into this world less conditioned. I mean, I've been spending most of my adult life shedding my conditions. They're just coming in this way, and they have more opportunity to, do more because they don't have to shed as much.
Well, and two, you speak of conditioning, I mean, we're all conditioned from childhood. Well, you must do this. This is the way things are. This is the way it
Yeah.
should be. And even Dr. Bruce Lipton, who wrote The Biology of Belief, but in his beautiful book, Spontaneous Evolution, he states that it's been proven that by the time we're 6 years old, every paradigm, every belief we will hold for the rest of our life is placed rock solid in your
Yeah.
consciousness and your subconscious. And that is because children between birth and six I can't remember which theta or alpha.
Theta. They're in theta brainwave.
It's
Mm-hmm.
the same brainwave state that takes place when you're being hypnotized. So basically, small children are almost in a hypnotic state from everything they see, read, hear, and it's just sucked in and established in the brain. Yeah.
Yeah, I became a very tangible experiment when it comes to that. So I grew up in Louisiana until I was 7. No, 8. I came here when I was in 2nd grade. But I've been living in Colorado. I mean, we're very liberal here. I mean, everyone's, anything. Probably because they're all high and everyone's, whatever. And, so I grew up in I have a different environment. And that's what Bruce Lipton says about the epigenetics is that what can change is if you change your environment, then you create maybe a new neural pathway. This could turn off and on, depending on your environment. And so I took one of those implicit bias tests. It's a Harvard implicit bias test. And I was challenged to take this during, I think it was 2020 when they were having all of the protests of Black Lives Matter. And I had on a very powerful African-American woman and we discussed this and she challenged me to take that. And I did, I was completely open and I was very surprised to see my results. I mean, my children, my daughter's boyfriend is African-American. My son's best friend's African-American. I did not think that I had this bias in me whatsoever. And so I actually got strongly biased against African Americans.
Wow.
And I was so disturbed, Karl. I didn't, I mean, I was so upset. I mean, I was crying and then I'd try it again and I'd get the same result. I must have tried it within like a month, probably 100 times. And my children would try it and that was like a positive and everyone pointed out. I mean, I had one kid who was opposite and most of them were all neutral or none, which was great. So if anything, it stopped with me. However, it wasn't sitting right. Like my mind, my soul, my body, nothing was aligning here. I mean, I didn't agree with what was coming out. So I happened to talk to a neuroscientist around that time and we talked about this. And of course it makes sense. In like you said, in those first few years, that's where I lived. That's what I saw. I didn't know anything different. And so when you do the test, I could see where I was failing. So it goes by how fast you could do it, how accurate, many different things that are happening when you're doing it. And so I had done really deep ancestry work. And I found out I'm French Creole. I have both masters and slaves in my tree. In fact, I have 21% African American within me that I never knew existed.
Hmm.
So I sat with this and I would sit and I would go into that space that we were just talking about, the theta.
Mm-hmm.
And I would really connect with my ancestors, my DNA. I was feeling everything, going through so much healing with that. And I shit you not, there's nothing I can do to get that result anymore. I don't get the lowest, but I don't get that highest. So I am proof
Yeah.
that something happened, that I created a brighter
Yeah.
pathway, and it literally worked. But had I not knew it was there, I would have never known. You know what I mean? I would have just been going through my life. It would have been playing out unconsciously. And there would have never been that healing that really needed to be done for me, for my ancestors, and for my children.
What I think is beautiful about that is, you, uh, through your own effort, you actually pivoted your belief system, and yes, it is not that easy to change a belief that has been buried deep in your subconscious when you were a child. It takes a little bit of work to change that, and I think that's another thing that we all have to understand is um, you have to have no fear and look at these things that are disempowering you. You have to look them in the face, but then you don't want to stay there and dwell there. Then you want to take the effort to change and move in the direction you really want to go. That's very cool that you did that.
It was crazy. And the thing is that I feel like how many of those things are living within us that we're unconscious of? And unless we do investigating very deep within to find them, and like you said, it does take courage because you have to face it because it's fear.
Well, let me ask you, you said you went into the theta state. How did you do that? Did you work with a hypnotherapist or did you do it to yourself?
Oh yeah. During that period, I had done so many things. I've had past life regressions, QHHT, not that during that time, but I have. But I'm just going into really deep meditations too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so funny you mentioned QHHT. I actually just did my very first session back in end of February. First time I've ever done it. It was a very unique experience. They take you pretty deep for it takes like 4 or 5 hours, and quantum healing hypnosis therapy established by Dolores Cannon.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So how was it?
I had never experienced anything like that because, but doing what I do, I was really open. I wanted to find out because I have some crap buried that I need worked on, and I still need work done. We all do,
Yeah.
And so it was interesting she really actually tapped into into my subconscious, to my higher guides, and I have a recording, so it's kind of interesting. Go back and listen to it. Yeah.
Wow. I think it's really interesting to go back and connect with versions of yourself. And what I had found in several of my past life regressions, I was always a woman without rights that was always fighting and struggling and having challenges with that. And it was a pattern that I saw every single regression. It was insane. I went from being a nun to I wasn't really a slave, but I was a woman during that time and had no rights, to a woman in like Egypt. I would make these scarves. I would like dye them with ink, but I had to have my brother. He had to do the selling and the dealings, even though it was my business. So it was always like that. And so, but in this life, I found my voice for the first time and broke many, many generations of that kind of woman. So it's interesting. And I also found it in my ancestry. So, how many things are living out in us, that are unconscious, that are from past lives, that are from our ancestors, that are keeping us from kind of obtaining the positive results that we would want to see within like law of attraction.
Well, I've never done any of those past life regressions. I'm sure that would
You
be
should.
so. But you were mentioning, I mean, you were always a woman where you kind of was suppressed. But I mean, we know this very well. Women have been suppressed and dominated for most of recorded history. And even today, there's hundreds of millions, if not, well, there's 8 billion people on the planet. Women in many cultures and countries are still completely dominated. And if they try to break free, they're killed or they're beat up or something. And so I think what I do now too, I think that's been, as I've grown older, I think I've really opened up to receiving and understanding the divine feminine more. I've had some guests talk about that, and it's about freaking time.
A woman.
A woman. I love it. I love it.
So that's my jam. I'm writing a book right now on the goddess Sophia. I've been studying the Gnostic Gospels for the past years. So yeah. So Sophia was the feminine name of God. It just means wisdom in Greek, but Jesus spoke to his disciples and taught, a lot of allegorical stories about Sophia. So yeah, she will be known after I get done with her. It seems like the powers of be were keeping us small, didn't want us to know about any of these things, Karl. So that's why no one knew what the law of attraction was, because I feel like from what I've discovered in the research I've done with the Gnostic Gospels and Sophia specifically, these things were hidden, but yet kept by secret societies.
Why do you think Rhonda Byrne called her movie The Secret? It's exactly
right. There you go.
Wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. I do kind of understand. And actually, I'd love to know your opinion on this, because at first I was very upset to read the Gnostic Gospels, to learn the things that I learned, because I was like, why was this kept from us? I was like, oh, this is why it was kept from us, because it was the feminine. They didn't want anything to do with the feminine. This is why they buried it. Or maybe that it held, this secret teachings. Actually, that's what they are, secret teachings of Jesus. But then I thought maybe it's that this is such a power that if some people got it, they would abuse it to control and rule the world, which is what I think they did.
Yes, they did. And they're still working on it.
Right. But now I feel you have people like us who want to reclaim that power for the good.
And, I'm really glad you point that out too. That is the beauty of, excuse me, of technology. When I grew up, there was no computers, no cell phones, none of that stuff, no internet. And now this is one of the reasons I believe that humanity is now more than ever able to start rising in an ascension above the 3D and understand that all things loving, light, and truth around the world. Because, my latest guest was in Stockholm, Sweden. The fact that when you're in Colorado and I'm in a different state, we sit here and it's like we're in the same room. The technology is now available. We could have somebody in Nigeria sitting there or Tasmania on a cell phone and access where before they would never have gotten any information to hear even something like this, maybe during several lifetimes, So it is beautiful. The internet, even social media, can be negative and hellish if you don't use it right. And in this instance, it's giving us a podium to help awaken the rest of the world. And I love that part of it.
Right. Oh my gosh, it's so true. So the age of Aquarius, which everyone's been waiting for all this time, the age of technology. And I do believe that as much bad as you can go out there and watch on the news, there's as much good in our communities. And I sometimes I'll be so oblivious to this darkness outside of me because I'm so involved in, joining groups or, like you said, the power of 8, stuff like that, or having conversations, listening to podcasts, watching them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to, it is possible. Uh-oh, giant cat.
There's it.
It is possible to do that. And here's the thing, I have a flat screen TV. It's not hooked up. I don't watch TV. I miss seeing sports on, I can go to a sports bar. However, it's not like I'm hiding my head in the sand. I see stuff online, so I know what's going on in the world, but I choose to make a positive difference in a different way. I mean, back during the pandemic, which I call the crazy-demic,
I like that.
Weirdness going on, and my old hippie demonstrator self wanted to come up and stand on a soapbox and just go, but understand, wait, that's not me anymore. I'm going to work from a more loving, beautiful, light-filled place. And that's what you do. That's what I do. And many of our fellow podcasters on Ethereal Network that we're founding members of, we're doing. And so, yeah, as we go along in our life too, hopefully, you discover your life purpose and your passion. I know many people never do, but hopefully they are. And maybe what we're doing is helping people awaken to that.
Yes. I mean, just the name of your podcast, right? World Awakening.
There's thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of podcasts in the world with similar themes. Energy is everything, right? So we're all vibrating on that higher level in a better, more loving, happier, beautiful, healthier place. So really, we are what we're doing. And it's not just us podcasters, it's authors and coaches, teachers and filmmakers, everything who are raising the level of that.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why we see on the media what seems to be more and more and more and more chaos in the world, wars and rapes and public shootings, mass shootings and ridiculousness, on and on and on, because that egocentric part of the world is vibrating at that low level. They know that we're raising the level, and so they're raising their game to counterpart what we're. And I think for us, as much as we hate to see that, that's encouraging. We are making a difference. We're causing them to work harder to
step up.
Insanity in the.
It's funny. I've if you will watch your regular news, if nothing's going on, it's sometimes they seem so bored and dead. They're just blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden something bad happens. They perk up. They're all excited, and it's like, oh my God, is this where you get fed? This is the trauma in the world just got you so excited. See my sign?
The planet desperately needs the peacemakers, healers, restorers, storytellers, lovers of. Yeah, I love it. That's good. So, and then in my sign in the back, it's all about the modern media. In the future, everybody will be world famous for 15 minutes. Andy Warhol, and that's true. Look at all the social media influencers. They have their 15 minutes of fame. But I think there's a lot for us, for humanity to be encouraged by what's happening. And you have a choice to not think and dwell and choose that negative, dark place. And it's hard if that's the way you grew up and you're just used to sitting there, in a hypnotic state in front of the boob tube, the TV, then you're going to be like that. You got to know there's something else out there.
Yeah. I mean, just what you just said, you got to know there's something out there. I mean, that's been, I think, the most beautiful thing about awakening is my backyard and just connecting with nature and things that I never, ever stopped, in my busy, busy life, just to notice and to connect with. And I've received more wisdom, through the sun and the moon and the birds and the trees and Mother Earth. And had I not just stopped to see that there was more out there.
Yeah, the power of now, just being in the now, out in nature and beauty and doing that. I think a good example of that, I saw a cartoon once, and I've never been able to find it again, but it was a cartoon of a man and a dog. It was walking his dog out in nature on a beautiful sunny day, and it was from behind. You could see the dog's rear end and the man's back. and they had the little cartoon balloons above them, and above the guy's head, here he is out in beautiful nature and birds, sunshine, and above his head was lightning bolts and, all these symbols that represent swearing and cussing and bad emotion. And above the dog's head in the cartoon balloon was an exact reflection of the beauty around him. And because animals are in the now,
and also children, like you were saying, in that state of theta brainwave, here I am as an adult trying to get back to what I was as a child.
Yeah, isn't it? And unfortunately, some people never do. I use that example quite a bit. Unfortunately, we all know people who built those negative paradigms, those beliefs in their brain when by the time they were 6, and they make it to 90 and they never change, and they die, disheartened and angry and mad, and who wants to leave the world that way, huh?
No, not me. I was just thinking about one of my guests a long time ago. She teaches Keys of Enoch, and she teaches the Pistis Sophia, which is one of the books that kind of got me into the Gnostic Gospels. But she also does A Course in Miracles. And I was just thinking, I've heard this before, and I think if you looked it up, you'll find that many people say that it's a very Gnostic kind of text.
I've been an ardent student of A Course in Miracles since 2004. So 20 years now. And I literally get up every single morning, feed the cat first so she doesn't keep meowing, get my coffee and sit down, and I read a lesson or a section of A Course in Miracles out loud. And then close that, and then I meditate and focus over it for a while, and I carry it with me through the day. I've had some of the greatest teachers of A Course in Miracles in the world on World Awakenings, and I've been really fortunate to get to know some of them personally. But A Course in Miracles is known as the modern spiritual guide. It was scribed by Helen Schuckman it was published in 1975. And she was a doctor of psychology in New York City, and wrote it. It's the first very non-dualistic spiritual teaching ever. And that is that the only reality is we are one with Source, at home with Source, and everything we see and talk about is not real. And when people first read it, they go, well, even Gary Renard, one of the greatest teachers of A Course in Miracles, he and I met him and we were talking, and we said the first time we opened A Course in Miracles, we said, Gary said this. He said, what the hell is this? I can't figure it out. And it's also a fair amount of it's written in iambic pentameter like Shakespeare. So it takes a little bit of sticking with it and start. But once you stay with it, the teachings are, oh man, your heart's going to blow wide open.
Okay. Yeah. I have it, and I haven't picked it up in a very long time. You're kind of inspiring me to.
Yeah.
But, was she part of the Theosophical Society? Do you know?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Dr. Helen Schuckman and her colleague, Bill Thedford, they were both professors at, it's interesting, I can't remember it's a medical psychology university in New York City. And Helen, of all things, too, was Jewish, and the voice of Jesus spoke to her and fed her everything that was written in A Course in Miracles. And the interesting thing is, when people hear Jesus, well, oh no, this is all Christianity. No, it's got nothing to do with religion. It's pure non-dualistic spirituality. And so, yeah, she was not connected to anything. Like, she was just a professor of psychology in New York.
Wow. And Jesus was Jewish.
Yeah, there you go. So, absolutely.
We often forget. I would say that the Gnostic Gospels was much like that for me. When I first picked them up to read them, I was like, what is this? And because it wasn't the Jesus I know, it wasn't the Mary Magdalene I know, it wasn't the Judas I know, it kind of was the Peter I thought I knew, but he was even worse in there. But there's so many of them, so I haven't read them all. But I mean, I've read probably 20 or more a few times. And Jesus was like a Zen master. He talked in allegorical stories, and Mary Magdalene was the one who was the most inquisitive seeking. And so when I had to fight against my DNA, my DNA did not want to receive it. It was like my brain actually hurt. It would hurt. And because there was like this battle going for me to be able to receive it. And I won. I think if you raise your vibration and if you're in a space that you were just saying that you create in the morning, in that space with just one sentence can just be so profound and just lead you, to pivot the rest of the day.
Well, now you've got my interest in up because I've never read the Gnostic Gospels.
Yeah, I know. Pretty darn amazing. Even Carl Jung had a Gnostic Gospel in his possession until even after he died. The museum that holds them all actually fought his family to have it returned with the rest of them. But you know what? They are available. Like you said, this is the age of technology. Anyone can get online and read ancient text. And one must question why they were hidden, why they were buried. Why did all of these other apostles, disciples write stories and they weren't included? But they weren't touched by hierarchy, kings, popes. They're raw, so they are a little different than what we're used to. But for me, that means they're probably more authentic.
My understanding is that when the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, there was mandated that they be kept private from the public's eyes for, I think, 50 years, and they were just finally released a few years ago, and now I guess you can go online and read those too.
Oh, I have them. I've got that book. I've actually went to the museum when they came here, and I tell you what, Carl, I could barely breathe in that place. I actually had to leave.
Why is that?
I mean, it was the energy that they had been holding. It's almost like how I feel about the Gnostic Gospels, how they were like birthed by Mother Earth herself. When something like the Hermetic philosophies, I mean, that's where all these laws came from originally. Ancient information ready for us to awaken to, for us to move to that next level.
And of course, like you said, they were buried for centuries, millennia, but now that they're made public and the access to the internet allowing instantaneous transfer of information and the internet, everything's being energy is energy too. So yeah, now this is part of why humanity is on the verge of awakening. Is not the verge; they are awakening.
Yeah. And I never in a million years could have foreseen my future of reading ancient texts and being so into that.
Yeah.
And I never sought it. All of it was through synchronicities.
One of the key spiritual understandings is there's no accidents or coincidences. And also, you're a prime example of the teacher will come when the student is ready. And obviously, with these ancient texts, you were ready.
I want to know about your book and how it can help people learn more about the law of attraction and putting into their life. Practical stuff here. True spirituality.
And the law of attraction, a beautiful symbiotic relationship. And that came about from my study of A Course in Miracles, non-dualistic spirituality, and the law of attraction. And everything I read in the course seemed to align with how the law of attraction works. That you have a choice. You can align yourself with bringing things. We are the creator of our own reality. Many people, the world walks around with thinking they're a victim of it all, but we don't understand that if you practice the law of attraction correctly, and if you study the true spirituality, that you can build a rock solid foundation for your own life. I mean, it's based on my original ebook, The Three Pillars. We have three pillars of our life: mental, physical, and spiritual. And if one of our pillars has a crack in it, well, your whole house, your whole life can come crashing down because a crack will make that pillar unsteady. So by shoring up your pillars, with what I call right-minded thinking through your study of true spirituality and practicing the law of attraction in the right way, you can solidify your house, your life, have rock solid pillars and a rock solid foundation. I mean, this is why we see, and I just use them as an example because it's so visible. We see politicians and movie stars and famous people and billionaires who we think have it all, and all of a sudden there's some big scandal and their whole house comes crashing down or something happens in their life because their pillars were shaky. They had cracks in them. They weren't established on right-minded living based on oneness and love and truth and the practice of understanding of how to manifest and utilize the law of attraction correctly. So if people want to grab a copy of it, that was an expansion of my 3 Pillars ebook, and it was a blast writing it. I have a lot of personal stories in there too.
Awesome. So do you still run marathons?
Well, I've run a total of 78 marathons, so I've kind of backed off a little bit on that. I still run about 5 days a week outside, and I coach a running club. I write about running. A couple of my books that I've written are about running. No, I haven't done a marathon in a while. I might do another half marathon at some point here. I got to burn off the beer and pizza, man. Keep the weight off.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
So, yeah, well, this is a blast, Shanna. It's just so great that we're colleagues and doing shows like this, and we can get together, and hopefully people will see us on Ethereal TV soon. That'll be awesome. Yep. So true that.
So, yeah, I'm very honored to be a part of it, and honored to be a part of the group with you and to have had this time with you. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Tell everybody your website and where they could find you.
Okay. Well, let's see. My website is just karlgruberlifecoach.com. Karl with a K, Gruber, GRUBER.com. And then, I have the, Facebook page of the same name, and, you got to do all the social media to be on there, and they can book True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction on Amazon. Oh, yeah, and World Awakening is a fast track to enlightenment. My podcast on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. How did I forget that?
Yes, your amazing podcast in the top 5% of the world.
Wow, thank you. It's been a blast.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot for coming on.
Thanks for listening to Sense of Soul podcast, and thanks to our special guests for joining me. If you want more of Sense of Soul, check out my website at www.mysenseofsoul.com, where you can work with me one-on-one or help support Sense of Soul podcast by donating to my coffee fund. Thanks for listening.